Hi guys, Danny Flexen, Fuad Abdul-Aziz, my trusty sidekick. We're here for Chat Shiz.
Wait, hold on. Before you even do that, I ain't no sidekick, Danny. Come on, don't label me as that. I am Batman. And
5 seconds into the intro and he's complaining. It's like having a wife.
Wow, I've never been called a wife before. That's interesting, I must say.
With my trusty partner, in terms of, police partnerships, that type of partner, Fuad Abdul-Aziz, we're here for Chat Shiz. Get banged. I have to think before I say that every week.
I know. I was going to say it earlier as well, because we say it off camera, but, gotta keep it PG for the kids.
For the kids. And we're back in business. I was at a press conference today, Frank Warren Promotions, or Queensbury Promotions press conference, selected invitees only. Fuad, I didn't see you there, mate. Were you there?
I just had better things to do.
Yeah. I did think, when I got there, I thought, I wonder where Fuad is, and then I just got on with my day and didn't think about it again.
Yeah.
But great time was had by all, I'm sure you'll be glad to know, at the National Maritime Museum in Greenwich, which was resplendent in the sunshine today. Daniel Dubois decided to rock up in a big suit and waistcoat, despite the sweltering temperatures. I'm sure it was a decision he almost immediately regretted, but hey. Joe Joyce looked like he was ready to go to the gym, so I think he had the better idea. But yeah, they've both got tune-up fights. Joe Joyce, the Juggernaut, is in action this weekend. It's Michael Vallish. And then Daniel Dubois will take on Eric Pfeiffer in a few weeks' time. And if they come through, then they clash in that big box office fight in October. Yeah. What do you make of this whole tune-up fight? Too big a risk, or is it right to keep the momentum going for the ultimate main event?
In boxing, there's always a risk, though, isn't it? You fight anyone, there's always a risk. But with all due respect to their opponents, I've not really heard much about them. That's just honesty. But the level that Joyce and Dubois are at, we know the levels they're at. Dubois is British champion. We know how good Joyce is, what he did in the amateurs. So for them, it should be, another, nothing. It should. I hate saying this, but it should be really like a sparring session, because there's not going to be people watching in the arena. It's not going to be arena type thingies. It's just going to be them, few people ringside. That's it. So if they stick to their professionalism, get out of the way, and I think it's good, because then there's no excuse of, I wasn't ready because I didn't have a fight. You had a fight before me, and then lockdown came. So they're having the fight similar time, and they can just get on with it in October when it happens. I can't wait. That's going to be pretty much the first blockbuster heavy fight from when we're back. Hopefully, arena type fight. That's going to be the biggest one.
Probably the domestic fight of the year, surely.
I don't want to put a label like that on it, because we can only say that once the fight is done, though, innit? Before a fight, you can call it something, but it could be an absolute stinker. Both of them might just hold back.
No, but I mean, in terms of the prestige and the two people fighting, it's the biggest domestic fight this year. Obviously, half this year has been wasted, but still.
Of course. I thought you meant value-wise.
Well, I want to ask you something, but before I do, we got a statement rather, from Thunder Road on our live stream feed, who said this should be called Flexen with Fuad. Thunder Road, I couldn't agree with you more. I'm obviously the star of the show. However, we did a bit of a deal. Fuad gets his name first in the billing. I get to walk second as the champion when we eventually meet. It's all good. We both know where we stand.
Guys, make sure to stay tuned. That fight is going to happen. Danny's been ducking me for a long time after that rough sparring session I put him through. He was bleeding from the nose. He was breathing heavy. He was on the floor. So it took him some time to actually, accept the fight. But, he took it. Oh, I just want to give Carlos George a shout out. He's from New Zealand, and apparently it's 4 a.m. there. So big up to tuning into the best show in the world at 4 a.m. What a guy.
I love the way Fuad's characterised this spar we had, when it was actually like some Sheffield backstreet when he'd organised about 5 of his mates to turn up and give me a bit of a going over before he even got in the ring. But yeah, it's fine. It all helps build up the fight. It's a narrative. We like it. What I wanted to ask you, though, about Dubois and Joyce. Joyce is the better amateur, obviously silver medal at the Olympics, could have been gold. More better opposition so far as a pro. Why has Daniel Dubois got the stiffer test in these tune-up fights?
I have no idea. You're going to have to answer that one yourself.
Well, I don't know. I mean, do the team behind both men kind of rate Dubois more highly? Do they think he's more likely to, not come unstuck? Eric Pfeiffer's a two-time Olympian. He's unbeaten. He's a good technical fighter. Beat Tony Yoka in the amateurs or in the WSB. And then you've got Michael Valish, sorry. No disrespect to him. I certainly would have disrespected him to his face today. Scary-looking dude. But he's lost 3 of his last 4 inside the distance before halfway against people who, for the most part, are less experienced than Joyce. So, yeah, I'm not sure why Dubois got the harder test.
Maybe because he is the younger one and he needs he might need, in his, I guess it's their choices though, because Dubois team might look at it as like, all right, if we can get a fight in that's, going to be not, I say again, I respect the 2 fighters that are coming in to fight these guys, but not too tough, but maybe Dubois can learn something from it. Whereas Joyce's team might be looking at it like, Joyce is as young as he is in his professional career, he's 31 years old. And for him, it's like, all right, it's more risky to probably take a higher level fight. It might be something like that, but it's a strange one, mentioning it like that. And again, I gotta be honest, I didn't know much about him before you even mentioned him, but you put it like that, it is a strange one.
Our old pal Thunder Rose trying to backtrack now on the live stream. He says he wasn't talking about any order of importance between the 2 of us. More like the play on words, so it would sound like Flexen with Fuad.
Oh, you see what I'm saying? See,
I'm taking this individual answer, I've got to say. I think. But yeah, what do you make of the card on Saturday as a whole? I'm assuming you'll be tuning in. Does it hold up? Are you happy with it?
I have to tune in because I want to watch Joyce. I want to see how he's looking. Remind me who's on the card again, because I'm not even sure. Hold on, I'm bringing it up right now.
Yeah, bring it up because I can't remember off the top of my head. And there was no undercard fighters at the press conference I attended today that you weren't at.
Are you going to keep saying that? Because I will travel down to London, you big stiff. No, I'm going to say.
Just to say, travelling down to London, which you didn't do today for that press conference that I was at.
Keep it coming. Where is it? I can't find the card.
This is sort of professionalism you get from Chat Shiz Get Bang, guys.
Oh. So we've got okay, so it's not too actually. Sonny Edwards is fighting Asomba.
That's a decent fight, yeah.
So that's a decent little clash. We got Muhammad Ali on the card.
Yes.
Muhammad Ali. Hutchinson versus Black Ledge. That's a good little scrap.
Oh, Willie Hutchinson.
Yeah, Willie Hutchinson versus Black Ledge. Maxwell versus Hughes. Which Hughes?
That's a brilliant fight. Now that's. For me, that's the best. That's the closest fight in the whole of or whatever we're going to call it, behind closed doors boxing in the UK. That's the closest fight to a 50-50 in my opinion.
I like the Edwards Asomba fight.
Yeah, it's good. I think Sonny will look really good in that fight. I think Asomba is aggressive and he's intelligent and he'll rumble forward. But I think Sonny, with his angles and his speed and his footwork, I think will look great in that fight. But I think Maxwell against Hughes, that's a great fight. Like, we've seen Maxwell struggle at times at a lower level to Hughes, but if he's going to go anywhere as a pro, because he was a really good amateur, he needs to beat the likes of Hughes. But Hughes was former European champion, and a lot of people thought he did enough to beat Robbie Davis Jr. In a very close fight. So Sam Maxwell, Joe Hughes, that's a great fight, I think.
Oh my God! I was trying to figure out which Hughes it was. I was looking. I was like, Hughes. Which Hughes are you on about?
Hughes.
But that's a good fight.
Yeah.
Yo, that's actually a really good fight domestically. No, I didn't even know that it was him, because I remember watching I went to his fight with Robbie Davis Jr. and it was a good little scrap. So him against Maxwell is a really solid fight. I want to ask you something about Sonny's fight. Obviously, we know Sonny is really good fighting on the back foot, really good counter puncher. His angles are solid. But we saw him get dropped against what's his name now? Scouser.
Farag. Oh no. Oh yeah. The one with the really good abs.
His Instagram name's MB Chosen One. Marcel Braithwaite. Yeah. So like, you say like someone like Asomba who's aggressive, And if Sonny comes, maybe even with his guard down a little bit, can't play to the crowd as much now, it could be a risky fight for him, really.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the Braithwaite, when he got dropped against Braithwaite, maybe that kind of wised him up a bit, made him a bit more cautious, keep him on his P's and Q's kind of thing. But I just think the way most people feel about Sonny Edwards and the way I feel about him, if he's going to go where I think he's going to go, he needs to be beating someone like Asomba relatively comfortably. I don't think he'll stop him just because of styles, and Asomba's incredibly tough. But I think he should be comfortably outpointing him. And I'm looking forward to seeing it, not because I expect an incredibly competitive fight, but because it's fun to watch Sonny Edwards box, especially against someone who's coming onto him.
Yeah, for sure. Sonny's, like I said, Sonny is fun to watch when he's on the back foot. And we saw him, I think one of my favourite ones was when he fought on the undercard of Dubois against some Mexican it was. But that guy was coming forward, like all guns blazing, and all Sonny was doing was moving backwards and catching him on the angles, which was really cool to watch.
Was that Granados, the guy who fought Jamie Conlon?
No, the Granados fight was a main event, wasn't it?
Oh, okay. So this was on an undercard.
Yeah, I'm sure he got dropped. Did he get dropped by Granados? Yeah, he got dropped by Granados when he did his ankle.
Okay.
So I think it was that fight, but it's hard keeping up the flyweight. There's a lot of international flyweights, isn't there? So
well, I think we can agree it's a good show. Like, you're really looking forward to that fight. I'm particularly looking forward to Maxwell Hughes.
Yeah.
Which I think it's the best fight of this whole period. I think it's better than most of the fight camp fights. I mean, there's a couple that stand out that we talked about before, but that is a really good fight for me. It'll probably fall through now I've said all this, but fingers crossed it does go ahead. There's no reason why it should fall through, I should point out. Far be it from Eddie Hearn to allow Frank Warren to have all this week's headlines. Eddie came out with some comments over the weekend, I believe, that were widely reported at various media and some of the snippets we get to see, obviously, on Twitter and so forth. And there was a couple that really stood out. I'm not sure which one to start with, but I guess one of them I discussed on my vlog earlier this week, so we'll park that for the minute. And we'll start with his desire to be I think he said something like the controller of boxing or the president of boxing and create a UFC-style monopoly in the sport. What do you make of that? Does he really believe he can do that, or is it just, getting a bit of press at a time when there's not much going on?
Bit of both, man. Eddie. He is a businessman. He knows what he's doing. He knows how he's doing it. But also, I believe that that's his motivation. Everyone, and I'm going deep here. Everyone has a goal in life, right? You have a goal, I have a goal. We all want to achieve something. And I genuinely believe. I'm sure you've interviewed him and asked him about UFC stuff before. And he gets riled up, like in a good way. Like, he gets excited when you talk about it, because that's his ultimate goal. And that's one of the main things that I actually really like about Eddie, because he has that goal in sight. Because it's the one thing I keep saying it, and I think I've said it on every live stream that we've done, maybe once, just throwing it in. Boxing needs that, man. We need a single body or a single promotion, which will be very hard to do. But if Eddie's working his way to do something like that, I genuinely believe it's him, like, trying to speak it into existence, but then again, it's a mix of timing as well.
Dream it, believe it, become it.
Believe it, become it, all day, every day. But I think it's him actually, being honest about it. What do you think? Do you think he's just trying to budge into the fight week a little bit?
Not necessarily to take press away from Warren, but I just think, they have these interviews on our competitor channel, and they tend to be quite lengthy. And maybe they run out of things to talk about, and this is quite a key subject, with UFC just doing 1.3 million views when boxing's struggling to get the viewers back after the lockdown. And I think Eddie certainly admires Dana White and what he's achieved. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But I just think there's so many barriers to creating a similar dynamic in boxing. I think PBC tried to do that and haven't been able to. So I don't see why. Well, I do see why Eddie Hearn feels he can succeed where they didn't, because he's a very confident man and he's rejuvenated boxing in the UK to an extent. But confidence aside, I don't see a realistic pathway to making that happen.
Yeah, it's just too many people involved now. Maybe if there was only 2 or 3, they could probably figure something out. But there's so many, from local shows to big shows. But then again, when you look at the UFC model, Danny, in the sport of MMA, remember, it's MMA, it's not UFC. Casual fans don't realize that sometimes. In the sport of MMA, there is different organizations. There is
But no genuine competition. Like anyone that's ever come close to UFC, they bought them out. You know, Pride, Strikeforce.
Bellator's very good in terms of the top people at Bellator. Bellator's very solid. And I'll tell you another one. One championship over in Asia. They're like bigger than the UFC in terms of like if you take the UFC in America and one championship in Asia, they're huge, but we don't see it as much. In fact, a couple of the UFC fighters left the UFC to go challenge in the one championship, and they do different things there in the one championship. So they do like different rehydration things where you have to be a certain level of hydrated when you're weighing in, or else you won't be allowed to fight. Safety precautions. That way you're fighting at a really natural weight. And a lot of the UFC guys went over there and got battered. So, you know, I think there's an opportunity to do that. It's just, not only is there so many promotions, there's so many belts as well. So, you know, we'll see.
There is another aspect to this, and it's something that people have been talking about on social media, and it kind of feeds into his other comments, which we'll talk about in a minute. And that's that he's conditioning the audience, or subtly conditioning the audience to accept what he's going to be able to promote, especially for the rest of this year. So it might be the case that because of travel restrictions and fighters fighting for other organisations and the trouble he's had recruiting talent in the US as well, that he's going to have to put on more than the usual number of all matchroom fights as main events. Yeah. And by saying he wants this kind of, microcosm, this self-contained organisation, maybe he's just talking about something he already knows he's going to have to do, at least for the time being.
True, and also if you haven't noticed, the way matchroom, it's gonna take numerous things to do it. Like getting enough fighters in, getting a strategy in place. But if you already see, I think Matchroom are heading that way because, with all due respect to every organization that does a brilliant job of putting fantastic cards on, Matchroom are leveling up with their social media game, which is huge, right? They're taking, their shows and they're making it like a standout thing on YouTube and Instagram. I don't know if you saw the animation thing they did the other day with their podcast thing. That in itself will push people to engage with the content, which will eventually make them engage with the organization and tune into their fights, and that will lead them towards that step of the ultimate goal of having your own thing. But yeah, I think they're going in that direction. It's just going to be interesting to see. It's going to take a really ballsy move to pull it off. Maybe they just recognize the WBC as the belt, and the WBC become like the one belt with Matchroom that you can fight for. Something like, it's going to take a ballsy move like that.
I'm going to talk a bit more about Eddie Hearn's comments in a moment, but I just want to go to one of the questions we've had on the live stream from Declan McCarthy. He says, who wins in a Joyce versus David Price fight?
That's an interesting one, actually. What do you think?
Joyce. I think Joyce. I think style-wise, Joyce is all wrong for David Price. I think he's got a solid chin. He's relentless. He keeps coming forward, the volume, he's fresher. I just think style-wise, he's all wrong for David Price. I think someone like that wouldn't give him any time to breathe, time to set his jab, time to move and uncork that massive right hand. Joyce wouldn't want to be standing in front of him for too long, and he does take too many shots, but I think Joyce would gradually kind of overwhelm him.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Someone asked me on my live stream, how long until Dubois gets a world title shot, in your opinion?
Yeah, see, that's an interesting one because Frank Warren says the winner of Joyce Dubois will get a world title shot. He hasn't said in their next fight, but he says they will get one. Now, presumably, that can only come against Tyson Fury because Frank Warren's not affiliated with Anthony Joshua, and only Joshua and Fury have belts. So, presumably, that's against Fury. Now, Fury's locked down for Deontay Wilder, hopefully before the end of this year. Then, if rumours are to be believed, 1 or 2 fights with with Anthony Joshua in 2021. So if all that's true, and Dillian White waiting in the wings, of course, as well, with his WBC interim belt and being number 1 for as long as he has, it could be 2022 at the earliest for Dubois, which is fine because he's still very young. If Joyce wins, not so much because he's 35 in September. But, Dubois is young enough to he can wait.
In September?
Yeah, it surprised me as well, but he said it at a press conference today. Sorry, you weren't there, were you? I apologise. You're just making it too easy.
I hate you.
He did mention it because I think John Rawlins said, "Oh yeah, you're going to be 35 soon." He said his birthday's in September. Time flies, I guess.
That's crazy, man. 35.
What? I'm 30. I'm 39 next month. Don't make it sound like 35 is really old.
It's not old, but I'm just saying in the boxing game because he's so young in the boxing pro boxing game. It's weird to think that he's 35 and he's facing a 21-year-old,
He
22.
started late, didn't he, and like stayed amateur for ages as well. But yeah, getting back to the question, I think Dubois or Joyce, whoever wins, I think you're looking at maybe 2022. But for Dubois, the biggest challenge there will be keeping him busy in the meantime, but against the right level of opponent.
Yeah, for sure. It's going to be hard for the people coming up to win world titles, vacant world titles, because eventually it's always going to be tied up between one or two because we've got so many good champions now.
Unless they get fragmented like they did in the past, which we don't want to see, but could happen with all the mandatory obligations.
Yeah, possibility, but I don't know. I feel like even then it's going to be pretty difficult to part their ways because even the organizations of the belts, they're going to want those big fights now because it's been bigger than ever. We're going back to the 90s with these heavyweights.
Now let's go to Eddie Hearn's other comments that really piqued interest, particularly across social media. I should preface this by saying he's promoting 3 pretty high-profile all-female fight. Well, I say all-female. It's never going to be female against male, is it? So three female fights on consecutive weeks in August. Harper Jonas, Brackus McCaskill, and Taylor Pursuit too. And he said in the thing at the weekend that men's boxing...
This is ball, mate. Come on, give him some credit.
All right. Men's boxing is in danger from women's boxing, or could be in danger from women's boxing. And we shouldn't be surprised if we see more female TV main events and pay-per-view main events. Now, before I ask if that's the case, and I made this point on my vlog, not only is he promoting 3 female fights, so he's got a reason to say this, but also, is this another example of conditioning the audience to expect more female fights? Do you know what I mean? Speaking it into existence, which is a term you said not long ago, because he might be saying it knowing that with kind of problems getting fighters together over the next few months, 6 months, rest of the year, or however long, there are going to be more all-female fights because perhaps they're easier to make at the top level.
Yeah, I think it is that. I think it's exactly that, conditioning people to believe into that. But I think he knows, like, in a ball, like overall, it's going to be very hard for females boxing to take over men's boxing. It's definitely for us who know the female fighters who watch female boxing and who aren't casual fans. Where we can get excited for those fights like Taylor Pursuit and stuff like that, and it's definitely going to be exciting for us. It's going to happen, but I don't think overall, man, it's so, like you're talking about overtaking the likes of Spence, Crawford, Joshua Fury, Lomachenko, Javante Davis, Devin Haney, all these guys.
Canelo,
Alvarez, of course.
I can't believe you didn't mention him, but yeah, Canelo as well.
Yeah,
I agree. I made a similar point on the vlog in that when you look at the female main events we have had, both on TV and on pay-per-view, and there haven't been many, but the ratings haven't come anywhere near the level of the top men's level of a similar kind of degree. So it's one of those that is growing, and the amateurs are coming through, and they're in the Olympics now. They've got more spaces than ever before. The amateur programs are getting more investment around the world, and I think their time will come, but achieving eventual parity in terms of purses and in terms of coverage and audience seems a long way off still.
I think if you're going to compare it to the UFC, right, they've done a great job with their female divisions, and it's definitely one of the big things that people know the likes of Ronda Rousey and people know the likes of Shevchenko and everyone who's competing in those divisions. Obviously, Ronda's not competing at the moment, but I think he's definitely working his way to that. But like I said, if you look at the UFC, even though their women's game is so big, it's still not bigger than a men's main event. People still know the men, and that's not any disrespect. It's just because there's so much more competition.
I don't think, and this is probably going to get some criticism, but I'm not sure we've seen an equivalent of Ronda Rousey yet. And by that, I mean someone that's got the personality, the charisma, the strength of character, all that kind of the stuff that gets you glued to your screen, combined with the highest level of technique. So you've got people like Katie Taylor, Clarissa Shields, and other fighters, and they're all hugely accomplished, winning world titles, and great fighters to watch at times as well. But then you watch them in interviews, and they're not like a Derek Chisora or even a Tyson Fury. I think we need that standard bearer, and then that'll bring the whole game up.
I think Clarissa's pretty, fun to interview. She talks the talk. I like a Clarissa Shields interview.
I find her, like, I enjoy interviewing her as well, but I find her, from comments we get, to be quite a polarising figure. Like, you either love her or you hate her. And I guess Tyson Fury was like that earlier in his career, whereas now the majority of people seem to be behind him.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe that is a bit unfair. Maybe we need someone like that in the UK then. Maybe that's why.
That's the main thing. Yeah, I think Clarissa's done a brilliant job to promote her way up to where she's at. Not just that, she's fought good competition and become a world champion, a unified world champion, breaking records. But she's definitely the most outspoken female fighter out there. It's just it might have even been better if she was with someone like Eddie. Given his, if Eddie gives all her, can you imagine Eddie promoting Clarissa? That would be.
I think any kind of major promoter getting behind Clarissa. So even in the US, like a Top Rank or whatever, or PBC or Golden Boy or whatever, I think that would be pretty cool. But yeah, I think we need someone like that in the UK. I think we need someone who's got that exuberant personality to go alongside the skills. And I think if you get the two combined in the same way it did with Rousey, who obviously even entering UFC, she was already an Olympic medalist. Then things could really take off.
We need to tell Teddy Harper, if you're watching this, love, you need to start talking. Come on, you need to start talking. No, she's blessed. She's humble, very humble.
Well, you got to stay humble. I can't remember who said that. Someone who was never heard from again. But yeah,
AJ or something.
We had a question from Gary Young on Twitter, and he said Canelo versus De La Hoya, and you spoke to me about this off air, is being rumoured. Do you think it's ridiculous, like I do, but fits with the Canelo pattern of fighting old legends? That's some serious shade at Canelo there.
That's put together really well, I've got to say. I'm just going to say it outright, man. Canelo, look, ODH, man, you've been retired for so long. I don't know how good you probably still batter most people, You've got hands, you kept somewhat fit. But you're talking about the pound for pound number one in a lot of people's opinion. The guy that's just, oh my God, he's at his prime. This guy's been a pro for so long, since a teenager, and he's still young, and he just turned 30. He's in his physical prime, his mental prime, his boxing prime. But I don't really make a comment on the fact that Canelo continuously fighting old legends. That's quite interesting.
Canelo, the legend killer. He's like boxing's version of Randy Orton. I love it. Yeah, I mean, Canelo's fought a few people that were past their prime, but I don't think generally. I mean, he's fought some really good fighters in their prime. I don't think Golovkin was too far behind. He's a world champion now. Danny Jacobs, of course. Sergei Kovalev was the reigning world champion when he fought him. I understand that you can pick apart anyone's record, but on accomplishments, Canelo's the number one pound for pound fighter in the world today. And the fact that Oscar De La Hoya's, feeling sharp in the gym and looking ripped for the first time in a while after all the problems he's had outside the ring. No, don't do it. You've got to thrive in promotional companies. Stick to that. And one of your jewel in the crown, the guy you promote, who's the biggest superstar in world boxing, is Canelo. So if you genuinely think you've got a shot at beating him, why would you want to fight him?
Yeah.
Like, you'll be winning money and losing money at the same time. It makes no sense.
No, it's strange. It's just a weird one, isn't it? He's like, you're promoting him. Like, what are you doing? Just stay promoting him. It's like, and he obviously believes he can beat him. Imagine if Eddie was an ex-pro heavyweight, right? And he turns around one day and goes, you know what? I want to fight AJ. Why?
I'm starting to think you're obsessed with Eddie, So we're talking about Clarissa Shields. Imagine Eddie promoted Clarissa. We're talking about De La Hoya. Imagine Eddie was a former boxer.
Eddie's the first name that always comes into my head because we spoke about it already like 3 times. So,
okay.
Are you jealous that I'm not talking about you, Danny? Is that what it is?
A little bit. But I did miss you at that press conference today. I just wanted to remind you of that. Ground Zero on our live stream says, Danny Flexen looks 20 years old and 40 at the same time. I don't know what to make of it. Like, I'm 39 next month. I guess I'll take it. I can't be unhappy with that because I almost am 40, so that's fine. And 20, no one ever says that. So, yeah, I'll take it. Now, before we round off, we'll have a nice closing question. I thought of this while we were talking. Out of all the boxers that have retired in the last 5 years, who would you most like to see make a comeback?
Andre Ward. Not even.
That's what I was going to say.
Not hard. That's not a hard question at all.
Just because you felt he still had so much to offer when he packed it in?
Yeah, man. It was so weird. I remember seeing the announcement and I was like, what are you doing? what's he doing? Why are you retiring? But you know, it was a smart decision for him to retire. He's very good at punditry. He's very good at speaking. He's got a lot to offer to the world, man. And I don't want to get deep again, but you know, Andre Ward's a very intellectual guy. He's awesome to be around. Like I don't know if you saw him when he came to London, but like when you feel the energy of him. But him coming back, I think he definitely hasn't let himself go. So maybe, you know, not a good solid training camp if you came back, but more so like, you know, train yourself up for a good half a year, maybe 8 months, and then get into a training camp and see how you feel. And, you know, within a year of him getting back to boxing, I think we could see something left of Andre Ward. Not prime, but still, you know, his style, you know, you don't need to be in your prime to have that style. We saw it with Mayweather, counter-punching, defensively good as well.
With a build-up and a tune-up fight and a training camp, which of the current super middleweight and light heavyweight champions does he beat?
I thought you were going to say, who would you want him to face? I was going to say Canelo, but who does he beat? Champions?
Yes, you got Beterbiev, Bivol, Caleb Plant, Callum Smith.
I think he beats Plant.
Straight there.
No, I think no. Plant's a great boxer, but I think stylistically, that's a good fight for Ward.
David Benavidez is another one.
Benavidez again, I feel like he could, you know, just outclass him out of experience. Canelo is a very tough fight, by the way, and I'm not saying he could beat him, but I'm not saying he might lose to him either. I'm genuinely saying if this is actually no wait, Andre is gonna get old as well. Don't forget that.
Beterbiev, Bivol. Did he beat either of those?
Beterbiev, stylistically, you would say, you know, Andre could have the upper hand, but Beterbiev is a hard man. So I think if there's anyone at the light heavyweights, minus Canelo, you'd say Beterbiev could probably beat him, a washed up Andre Ward or whatever. Bivol's a good fight. Bivol's a solid fight. Yeah, what do you think? What about you? How are you looking at it?
I think, yeah, I mean, at this stage, it's hard to know without knowing what Ward's got left, but I'd probably favour both Bivol and Beterbiev. But super middleweight, I'd favour Ward in most of those fights. Billy Joe Saunders would be an interesting one.
Think about it, though. Like, of course, he's not letting himself go, but he's walking around at a heavyweight weight. You know, he looks bulky. So getting down to light heavyweight is one thing, but getting down to super middleweight, that's a completely different thing. So I think super middleweight is out of reach, man. You'd probably have to look at maybe even cruiserweights and light heavyweights, not super middleweights. I don't think that those make sense in terms of weight.
So comeback cruiserweight, winner of the WBSS maybe early next year.
Come on, Andre, if you're listening to this, we want to watch you fight one more time.
Of course he's listening. Of course he's listening. We saw Frank Mir, someone you probably know more about than I do, liked one of our posts on Instagram earlier.
Did he? UFC lad?
UFC legend Frank Mir, yeah. It was about Joe Joyce. I think maybe they trained together in Las Vegas. I'm not sure. Not together, but in the same facility.
Yeah. Oh, that's dope. We need to get someone on next week. We need to get a guest. That would be pretty good.
All right, let's do it. Let's get a guest. Let's throw it out to people as well. Comment for us on the live stream or after the video's done, and you can comment below. Who do you want to see us talk to? Don't be unrealistic. You know, we're not getting Canelo on here next week, obviously, but you know, realistically, who would you like to see us chat to?
They want to see us chat to Kell Brook.
That wasn't even your usual Kell Brook impression.
I got scared.
Like Scouser Kell Brook.
I got scared halfway.
You got stuck between.
Scouser, get out.
Yeah.
Jamie,
good. That's as good as that impressionist fella who does Stephen Gerrard. Actually, I hope he's not watching this.
There's like three that do it.
Oh really? Well, it's better than all of them. There you go. Right, guys, we're going to check out. Obviously, watch both our channels for the latest videos. I was at the Joyce Dubois press conference today. I know I haven't mentioned it yet on this stream, but you can watch the videos of that on Seconds Out. Fuad, I'm not sure what you've got on behind the gloves, but I'm sure it's great.
See this bottle?
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I want. Right. Say it one more time.
So, this is Danny Flexen now, obviously a little bit intimidated and seeking a restraining order. Goodbye from me.
See you in a bit, guys. Thanks for tuning in.
Take care. Always.